The Committee on Veterans, Military Affairs, and Pensions. Madam Secretary, please call the roll.
Senator Eigel.
Here.
Senator Bratton. Senator Black.
Here.
Senator Gannon. Senator McCreary.
Here.
Senator Roberts.
Here.
Senator Schroer.
Here.
Okay, we do have a quorum. We're going to be hearing two bills today. One is the military bill, and one is the gold and silver bill. So it's a gold star day. All right, I'm going to turn. Who's my last year? Is it Rick? Okay, you're going to get the duty. I'm going to turn the gavel over to Senator Schroer, if you don't mind, Senator, and we're going to hear Senate Bill 734 first, and then 735. Fantastic. Oh, perfect.
Senator, please proceed with your presentation of Senate Bill 734.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm State Senator Bill Eigel, and I'm from the 23rd State Senatorial District. It is my pleasure to introduce for you Senate Bill 734 on military affairs. Now, I'd like to point out that I think most, if not all, of these provisions have actually been vetted and were part of a previous piece of legislation that actually made its way through the House or the Senate in some version last session. So I don't believe that any of these things should be new territory, so I'm going to cover them briefly and just go quickly through the summary, and of course I'll be happy to answer any questions. First of all, the first item in there, it has to deal with COVID-19 vaccinations and prevents the National Guard from mandating COVID-19 vaccinations as a requirement for duty. It also includes some information on the Veterans Commission efforts on veterans suicide. I believe I've been working with Senator Black. You and I have heard this legislation previously on some new mechanisms that may help some of our veterans that are suffering from PTSD and other ailments. We have a tax deduction, which was also passed off the Senate floor for our armed services members of the National Guard who get a signing bonus for their commitment to serve in the National Guard. There are several medals that we are authorizing for members of our National Guard, including Operation Enduring Freedom, Operation Freedom Sentinel, and Operation Allies Refuge. So these are three individual medals. We did hear them last year, and they were also approved through the Senate chamber. This does include, I don't know that we heard it in this committee, but it was heard and it was debated on the Senate floor, having to do with hunting and fishing permits for certain members of the military. This act will provide that any veteran who is discharged or released from service under conditions other than dishonorable, and any active duty member of the Missouri National Guard shall be eligible to receive hunting and fishing permits free of charge. I have distributed to each member of the committee a fiscal note on that. Again, I know that this has come up on the Senate floor. I don't know, actually, now that I'm saying, I don't know for sure that we've heard it in this committee. We may have. I'll check with the staff. We did. Okay. It was tickling my memory there. Thank you, Senator. And then finally, the final item on there has to do with approving a new license plate for disabled veterans. I believe we did hear this last year. It did not have any objections. And unfortunately, just many of these things, many of these provisions were just items that just didn't make it over the finish line last year. With that, Mr. Chairman, I am happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Senator. Any questions for the bill handler, Chairman? Seeing none, thank you very much. Anyone to testify in support? Please come forward. Remember to fill out a witness form if you do not have one already. You may proceed when you're ready.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and esteemed members of this particularly important committee. My name is Chris Powers. I'm a 23-year citizen soldier of the Missouri National Guard, and in my current role, I also serve as the president of our Missouri National Guard Association. Our association is a 501c19 nonprofit organization, and really our primary role is dedicated to the enhancement and well-being of our nearly 10,000 currently serving members, as well as their families, and then the tens of thousands of retirees and others who have gotten out of service here in the state of Missouri. I appear before you today to convey my support for pertinent provisions outlined in this particular Senate bill. One aspect that warrants recognition is the anticipated collaboration between both the Missouri Veterans Commission and the Department of Mental Health, as is stipulated in Section 42.022. This particular initiative underscores the state's commitment, frankly, to our addressing our complex mental health challenges faced by our esteemed veterans, particularly those returning from combat duty to Iraq, Afghanistan, and other parts of the world. Secondly, the expansion of the income tax deduction for active and reserve members of the armed forces, including the incorporation of signing bonuses in particular, underscores and signifies really the nuanced understanding of this committee of the financial aspects inherent in military service. This particular provision contributes significantly to fostering a fair and equitable tax policy to our Missouri veterans. I would extend my gratitude to Senator Eigel for incorporating this particularly thoughtful provision into Senate Bill 734. As an outdoorsman myself, I can tell you, like many of our guardsmen, there's a significant force behind the support on Section 252.250, and that's the hunting and fishing permit requirement in this bill. Just kind of pairing this with the provision on mental health, I can tell you, at least for myself, getting outdoors and doing things that stimulate activity beyond the four corners of your house is particularly important, and I think it really complements the previous provision that's in that bill. So with all that, I just want to commend the committee again for taking this up. I know it's a little bit of a hodgepodge based on stuff that didn't come across the finish line last year, but these are all important components to supporting the Guard, particularly in the recruiting issue with the recruiting issues that we're having right now. So with that, I just want to say thank you once more, and I take any questions that you might have.
Thanks for your testimony, Chris. Any questions for, I know that Senator had a question for the bill sponsor.
Oh,
Yes.
Proceed.
Thank you for allowing me to break the protocol there. This is directed towards the bill sponsor, not the witness. So this bill does have a lot of moving parts in it. The concern I have with the bill has to do with ownership of real estate near not just military areas, but also businesses that engage in certain military manufacturing. Boeing, I'm assuming, would qualify as a facility like that. And so, you know, the way this bill is written, my concern is that, you know, actually in St. Charles County, St. Louis County, we have a lot of folks that are foreign-born people that own real estate. They come here to work. They're working as doctors and scientists and professors and things like that. And so my concern is that we're moving this to not just foreign businesses, but people that are foreign-born.
yes. So that is a great highlight, Senator. It does include a foreign land provision. So I think that you and I had some really productive conversations last year about if we're going to begin restricting land ownership in this state, that it ought to be limited to agricultural ground.
And I'm more focused on the corporate part of it.
Right.
I think that, you know, when we look at Missouri's census data, we're a state that's declining, we're aging, people are leaving and not coming back. A report recently came out at the end of 2023 that said that that the St. Louis region, which includes St. Charles County, needs to be doing things to attract immigrants, and that is a way that we can have a positive impact on the economy. And my concern is the way this language is written, it would have a negative impact on.
So I'll say that I wouldn't want this provision to stop the other items in this particular bill. That being said, I do think that there is actually a very broad bipartisan support in the chamber that can get something done on this issue. And could I offer to maybe discuss this with you?
Oh, I'm happy to
after?
discuss it.
Yes.
I just,
I'm committed to getting something that will bring us all together.
Okay.
And I will not have this provision be something that causes the bill to slow or derail.
Okay. And maybe I'm still in House of Representatives mode, but I always feel like, when a committee is hearing a bill and there's silence, it's just presumed that no one has a problem with it. So I just wanted to put that
Yes.
out there. I think that's
Absolutely.
something that, I know that foreign-born people are an important part of my district, and St. Charles County has a lot of foreign-born people that are working, paying taxes, going to school, that kind of thing. So I want to make sure we're not doing anything that hurts them. So,
Fantastic.
awesome. Thank you.
Thank you, Senator.
Thank you. Any other questions? Seeing none. Anyone else to testify in support? Seeing none. Anyone to testify in opposition? Informational purposes? Nope.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon, Mr. Chairman, members of the committee. Aaron Jeffries, Deputy Director for the Missouri Department of Conservation, here to testify for informational purposes on the legislation. Obviously, with the piece of legislation dealing with the free hunting and fishing permits for veterans, the department, if the commission would take action on this, we would have significant concerns about the fiscal impact. We conservatively estimate the lost revenue in permits alone would be about $3.3 million. For some reason, our fiscal note does not include the lost federal reimbursement. So, for example, Mr. Chairman, when you buy a hunting permit, we receive a certain amount of federal aid back for that permit. That is not included for the hundreds of thousands of free permits that we issue to landowners and individuals over the age of 65. So in this case, there would be an additional $2 million. So we can conservatively estimate the fiscal impact to be well over $5 million, which could significantly impact the programs and services that the department offers to the public today. The commission do have several exemptions for active duty, for veterans with disabilities, but probably what I'm most proud of is our conservation agents that participate in a variety of wounded warrior programs across the state to help engage veterans in hunting and fishing. With that, Mr. Chairman, I'll be happy to answer any questions.
Any questions? Senator McCreary, proceed.
Thank you, Senator. Good afternoon. Thank you for being here. I remember hearing this bill or this component last year. We had a discussion too about some veterans would qualify for reduced or free permits because of their age. What are some of the other ways that somebody could qualify for free or reduced permits?
So the department issues about almost 3 million permits annually, and that includes several hundred thousand for permit exemptions or free permits. So individuals under the age of 16, individuals with severe disabilities, individuals over the age of 65, and then landowners can also receive free hunting, fishing permits, and then also free deer and turkey permits if they have more than 20 acres.
Okay. So there are ways for some folks that we want to help so that they can get outdoors, like the witness said, get outdoors, get fresh air, enjoy that.
Absolutely. I mean, our deer permit is $18. The surrounding state average is approaching $60, $70 right now. So we have quite the bargain compared to surrounding states when it comes to the prices of our hunting and fishing permits.
Okay. And just FYI, the loss of federal reimbursement estimated at $2 million. It is in the fiscal note, it just doesn't show up in the graph. So you have to actually,
Thank you.
Yeah. I just wanted you to
I'll have
know.
to pick on Jake then, I guess.
It's in there at the very bottom. So thank you.
Since I was the actual handler and sponsor of the permit aspect last year, now this is not including deer and like deer, permits or turkey tags or anything like that. This is like just the overall hunting and fishing permit, correct? So the veteran would still have to purchase, like if they go and hunt the actual big game that most go hunt, they would still have to purchase those, correct?
I would have to take a look at the exact wording of the legislation, but I don't think it exempts out deer or turkey.
It's just hunting and fishing permits.
That's a very broad term, Mr. Chairman.
But you can buy the hunting license permit.
It would be a small game or a migratory bird. So it's not specified. It just simply says hunting permit, not small game or fishing permit.
But you do buy a hunting permit.
Yeah.
Okay. So that was I would assume that the sponsor would, be willing to fix any sort of fix any sort of language that would solidify probably the meaning. I would assume yours for all of the above, or for the hunting permit and the fishing permit, instead of like the deer tag.
No, I think it's all of them right now. Isn't that that's how the?
I think that was my point. It simply says hunting, fishing permits. It
Yeah.
doesn't clarify.
Okay.
But
So,
I make a habit of saying yes to compromise. So if that's the compromise we need to get to, I'm certainly open to that
Okay,
discussion.
all right.
I think that may change the fiscal note, though.
It would.
okay. I just I didn't know which, I should have asked you more clarifying answers. So, any other questions? Senator Black, proceed.
I have one, Aaron, and it's just, I don't even know whether it ought to be asked over microphone, okay? Do you have a guess at how the guesstimate was put together on those numbers on there, on number of permits?
Can I put my
And I know that maybe I'll just be in my office, because it's all over the place, right? In my 8 years of being here, where do we guess at those kind of things? Because it is a guesstimate. I had to do that on kids' grades all the time. I just look at him and, yeah, you like maybe a D plus. It was called the WAG.
Nervous that he's going to pass judgment
I-
on those of us here at the
yeah.
committee table all of a sudden.
I'm kind of concerned what Grady's going to give me for my
That's right.
fiscal note here.
I think I know what Grady would give me,
Yeah.
so I'm a little nervous about that.
So
He
if,
might be in a low average.
if I may entertain the committee. So according to the Department of Veteran Affairs, there's about 425,000 veterans here in the state of Missouri. Approximately 44% of those are over the age of 65, so they're already exempt from small game and fishing permits. That would leave about 238,000 that would be eligible for the free permits if the commission would choose to take that action. We conservatively estimate that probably 30% of those folks deer hunt,
Okay, that was a percentage.
12%
used.
turkey hunt, I have a question being that, 12% archery hunt, 12% spring turkey hunt. So we took some very conservative measures of, 12 to 20% that might participate, and then calculated out the cost of permit and then the federal reimbursement as well.
Good. Well, if you're an ag econ, you're up in the mid-Cs at least.
Thank you, sir.
Bill, not on the microphone.
Anyone else? Seeing none, thank you for your testimony.
Thank
Anyone else for informational purposes only? Seeing none. Anyone for informational, well, I guess we already did that. Senator, do you have any closing remarks for
I
your
do
bill?
not.
All right.
I do not.
So I came in late, I do apologize. Is this your second bill? I know you had two.
First bill.
That's your first, okay. All right, well, that will conclude the hearing on Senate Bill 734, and now we'll move into Senate Bill 735. Proceed when ready.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Members of the committee, State Senator Bill Eigel from the 23rd State Senatorial District, pleased to present Senate Bill 735, having to do with gold and silver. Now, this is a bill that's actually seen some modifications, and if you'll notice, the first section has to do with the custody of gold and silver specie by the state treasurer. Committee members will remember that last year we wanted to try to provide as a hedge for the spending that's going on in the federal government, requiring the state treasurer to keep a certain amount of our physical reserves in gold and silver here at the state level. We ran into what we found may be some constitutional concerns, so we've added different language this time, and specifically this version of the gold and silver bill will permit the state treasurer under state code to keep in the custody of the state treasury an amount of gold and silver specie greater than or equal to 1% of all state funds, provided that all such specie is not needed for current expenses and shall be placed in an on-time deposit bearing interest in one or more banking institutions in the state as required by the Constitution. It does, the next provision was in last year's bill. It exempts income taxation on exchanges or purchases and sales of gold and silver, as we are treating gold and silver for what it is, which is a different mechanism, a store of value, a currency. It doesn't make sense to charge one currency income taxes, which would be gold and silver, but not all the other forms of currency that folks can trade into and out of in our current setup. And finally, we're making the kind of the heart of the bill is the legal tender piece, which essentially declares that specie legal tender and electronic currency, of those defined in the act, shall be accepted for payment at all public debts, may be received for payment for all private debts. One of the concerns that was brought up last year on the bill was the idea that would the bill require private institutions to accept gold and silver? So we've gone out of our way with the language in this bill to ensure that it's very clear that private institutions will not be forced to accept gold and silver under our legislation, but the state government will. So the state government will, and I'd also like to recognize Senator McCreary, the point that you brought up about the cost associated with that, which in normal transactions, for example, credit card transactions, are borne by the supplier of such exchange, should be borne by the supplier of the exchange, which in this case is the government. And so I would expect before the bill comes up for voting out of the committee, I intend to make that change as well. So I think that was really good. I just wanted to mention that you've already been ahead of the curve by bringing that to my attention. I just appreciate that. So that is the genesis of the bill, and I'm happy to answer any questions, Mr. Chairman.
Any questions? Oh, Senator McCreary, proceed.
Mr. Chair. All right, so as I'm looking at page 14 of the bill, it talks about gold and silver may be accepted as payment for all private debts contracted in the state in the discretion of the receiving entity. So it sounds like folks, this isn't mandatory. Like
Correct.
It
Correct.
would
They
allow
may.
folks to opt in if they want to.
Correct.
Okay.
And I don't want, if you have a private entity that wants to accept gold and silver, I don't want to stop that. I don't want to prohibit that. I don't want to, but I also don't want to mandate it.
Okay. So, yeah, because I think one of the scenarios we talked through last year when we heard this bill was, you've got a small license bureau, and they're trying to get people's, driver's licenses, and
Yes.
they'd have to have a little scale set up and that kind of thing.
It
So-
was, and this is one of those reasons, I think we've come up with a better product to address precisely these kind of things. So I feel like the product we have today is even better than the one for these reasons than we had last year.
Okay, so does that also mean that the state would have to opt into participating too, or that's one thing that you would mandate?
So the state would
The
have to.
state does, but
So
anybody else, so I'm thinking this through, I'm thinking out loud. These license bureaus, for
Correct,
example, they're
yep.
not technically state-run anymore, but we contract with these entities, like what?
Well, so the way I think my vision of how this would unfold
Mm-hmm.
is the Department of Revenue would have to promulgate rules of how the state was
Okay.
going to accept gold and silver transactions. My guess is that you're not going to see a gold and silver specialist in every DMV
Right.
or every you name it around the state. I think that you'll have you'll have an office set up probably here in Jefferson City for
Mm-hmm.
the few individuals to start with. Now this could become different down the road if it's more accepted. But to start with, one office where if you're paying debts directly to the state, that you can do so in the form of gold and silver from that office. And again, I'm hesitant to declare too many restrictions around that rule
Right.
because I want to give the flexibility to DOR to determine that. But certainly, if there's any restrictions you could think of that we should put in there, I'm certainly open to that.
Okay, great, thank you.
Any other questions? Seeing none. Anyone to testify in support? Please remember to fill out a witness form. Please come forward.
Good afternoon, Chairman, Senators. I'm sure you guys remember me from last year. I like to do show and tell. I think you guys remember the Goldbacks from last year. But I think actually I can help you out with a few more things this year that I couldn't last year because I didn't think of it at the time. And that's actually a Sigma device. Have you guys ever seen anything like this before? I know we're not supposed to do props and stuff like this, but I'm a private citizen, so I can probably get away with it, right? This actually will determine the purity of gold, silver, copper, platinum, or palladium. So you have one of these at a register, along with a little digital scale that you could pick up at Amazon for 15 bucks, and you've got your register ready to take gold and silver coins. But you don't have to take gold and silver coins. We got gold backs. There's bullion banks that do it with, the equivalent of a ATM card. There's lots of ways to transact in gold and silver. The free market's had all these options available for a very long time. The reason I brought this today is because when we were dealing with this in the House last year, someone asked me how it's possible to even do it without scoring the surface of the coin and destroying the coin in the process. I said, one of these. I just thought everyone knew. So these things are available. They're out there. They're about $900 or so. So if we're looking for a cost at a register, it'd be about $900 plus the $20 from Amazon for. But the other thing I wanted to talk about was the fact that 14 states so far this year, if you guys are following this, I don't know how many people do. I mean, I tend to follow this stuff. 14 states are doing gold and silver legislation so far in 2024. Now, it was 23 states in 2023. It's easy to remember that way. I suspect it's going to be over 25 in 2024. This is a hot topic across the states, and it's not because it's trendy. If anyone's talked to any other legislators in any other states, which I have, actually asking them, why are you doing this? Why is this important to you? The answers you're going to get is self-preservation. That's what they'll tell you in other states. That's why we're doing gold and silver, because it looks like they're trying to take away the dollar and put us into a cashless society. We want an anonymous transactional option. And it doesn't matter what state you call, Tennessee, Arkansas. By the way, Arkansas got it done last year in 13 days. From the day it was filed in the House to the day it was signed by the governor, 13 days in Arkansas. So this is pretty popular stuff, and everyone's worried about FedNow. Everyone who knows about FedNow is worried about FedNow that isn't a banker, I suppose. But I'm concerned about this because they're deliberately trying to move businesses off of cash. That's what FedNow is all about if you read it. There's a lot of text having to do with the Federal Reserve's FedNow program, but that's the end result, cashless society. Once we have a cashless society, it's very easy to move us to a digital dollar. So gold and silver should be an easy option for us. It's in the Constitution. It's been there all along for us. And it's in so many transactable forms that are very easy to use. So yeah, gold, silver coins, we still have these if we need them. But we can do gold backs, we can do ATM cards with bullion banks, and everything you can pretty much do with cash. But at any rate, also, I plug this book everywhere I go here. If you guys have never read this before, this is Guide to Investing Gold and Silver. But it's a very, very misleading title. This is a history book about gold and silver. About 90% of this book is about the history of gold and silver. About 10% of it's investing. So with that in mind, I would be happy to answer any questions if you guys have any.
Any questions? See none. Thank you.
Okay,
Appreciate your
thank you
testimony.
very much. I appreciate your time.
Right. Anyone else to testify in support? Please remember to fill out a witness form.
Good afternoon, Chairman and Senators. Mr. Holland described how this can be done. I'm going to tell you what happens if we don't. If we go to a digital currency, this will be totally programmable. So if they decide they don't want you eating at McDonald's, your money won't work. If they decide you can't move more than 15 miles away, your money won't work outside of there. It will be all through your phone. This is not a futuristic idea. China is using it currently to control their population. They've tried to riot. Once they get outside the zone they're supposed to be in, their money no longer works. They cannot use public transportation. They cannot buy food, gas, anything. Their money simply doesn't work. That is where this will lead to if we do not do something to allow people to transact actual money. It's a scary future. If you look into what China is actually doing right now, it is totally totalitarian. And I do not want that to come to this country. I'm a disabled veteran. I've fought for this country, and I want to preserve its freedom. Any questions?
Well, thank you for your service and willingness to come down here and testify. I completely agree with you. Without cash, without something tangible to be able to have in your hands, you have all loss of real, true freedom as an individual, the right to private transaction. And I think this is a stepping stone. I think we definitely here in Missouri have to deal with, how are we going to address or take on the FedNow system? I mean, we have ACH, we have all these other private entities that can fulfill that role. Why is the federal government stepping in and taking over digital transaction world? But then the central bank digital currency truly is that final nail in the coffin that we're moving towards, that China has already moved towards.
Yes.
I don't want to see that. And
I
I
don't either.
think of my great-grandmother and my grandparents who grew up in the Great Depression. They did not trust banks. They did not trust the financial system because they lived through that collapse where they had nothing and everything was taken from them. So I think there's wisdom from, if you talk to earlier generations that went through calamity, through a financial system collapse. We would be wise to listen to their counsel, see how they live their lives. And I know dang good and well if they were sitting here in these chairs, having lived through that, this would be a consent bill moving through and getting done in 13 days like you heard.
I
So
agree.
I appreciate your testimony.
My grandfather went through the Great Depression, and he told me many stories of it. And
Yep,
I don't want to see that.
I agree. Well, like sayings like "don't even have a pot to piss in," and so on and so forth, all came from and stemmed from that era. And I don't want to go back there, and especially seeing these youngsters here. Any other questions or comments? See none. Thank you for your testimony. Anyone else to testify in support? No one else? All right. Anyone to testify in opposition? For informational purposes only? See none. Senator, you just did a fantastic job. Support only.
We just want to be very efficient in this government body. So this will conclude the hearing on Senate Bill 735, but I will reach out, Senator McCreary, we'll sit down. I think there are lots of paths forward for the items you mentioned, so I'll reach out to your office, we'll get that done. Hopefully, we can make that process, and if we can, I'll probably like to pass a vote on both of these bills next week.
All right. Well, that concludes the hearing on this bill, and it also concludes Veterans Committee. I don't have. That's right. That's right.